now recording for Susan. We're going to switch because Susan's been asking a lot of questions on the trusts, and she just brought up the fictions. Now, go back to what you were saying, Susan.
So I've been hearing other teachers talk about how to handle courts, how to handle judges, and basically you have to understand that courts are fiction and they are not, based on natural law. They're not based on real law. They're based on color of law, which is the appearance of law. And they have a bunch of tricks and traps to get you into their jurisdiction. So, you have to recognize these traps, and so that you don't get, caught in them. The other thing I had a question on is, where's the proof that we are registered agents for the vessel? Because, you know how on any corporation you can look up the registered agent under business search under your state's website. So where would it be documented that we are the registered agents of
your driver's license?
Okay, so if we don't have a driver's license, then we're not a registered agent?
You fill out a W-2 to go to work?
No, I'm a 1099, but
you still put the address on the 1099 because what did you put on it? The Social Security, right? Or you're using an EIN. Now, let's go back to the fiction. You're incorrect on natural law. The Bible says, who instituted government? God did. Now, let's just hypothetically say, now,
government is control of the mind.
Hold on. It says that God instituted government to punish the wicked in the Bible. But let's say you don't believe in the Bible. Okay, that's fine. Under natural law, a tribe is created. The strong in the tribe rise to the top, and for the defense and protection of the tribe, there's rules that get created. That is government. So when you say that government isn't of natural law, you are actually wrong.
Okay, I'll just agree to disagree with you. But
biology that creates itself in the process of people coming together to create a society. It's just something that naturally forms. That's what he's saying, that government is a natural byproduct of people coming together and needing protection and organizing to create something that can substantiate that.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you could create rules for your own.
It's our duty to overthrow it and install something new.
Yes,
we don't take that duty upon ourselves.
When you
also
when government becomes oppressive, yes, that is the right of the people. But guess what? By nature, does that happen? No. Look at every single empire and every single country throughout history. Government becomes oppressive. And do the people rise up and overthrow it? No. Why? Because by nature, people are wanting to be slaves because why? They go against nature. Look at communist China.
People go against nature?
Yes.
Well, also in reference to the Bible, there's theories that the Old Testament is not the real Bible, it's the New Testament, but I don't know.
That's an irrelevant argument. The principles in the Bible is what developed this country. 93%, this is a proven fact. Harvard even did a study on this. 93% of what's in the Declaration of Independence, Constitution, and Bill of Rights are either a direct quote or an indirect quote from the book of Deuteronomy.
So Black Law's dictionaries.
So my whole question is, how can, why would they, what's the excuse or, that they have to create a vessel for us if they are not sort of pretending to make it for our benefit. I mean,
Who says it was for us?
No, it's really for them, but I mean, to create it in the first place. Like we were chatting earlier about how you're saying that you don't need to have a real person to create a trust. And I was saying,
No, what I was saying is, let me actually go to what you said so I can actually get it right. Let me see. Because
I wanted to add one more thing.
Okay, let's see.
Doesn't it say that Social Security is a trust on their own website?
It is. That's right.
So
you said, but what about the fact they cannot create the name trust without us? That was your question. I said, who says they can't? If I create a trust and I name it Susan, do I have the right to create that trust? I can name it whatever I want. Does that mean it's you?
What would be the point of creating a trust for something or someone that doesn't exist and they're not really being a beneficiary?
Amazon is a trust. Does it exist? No, they made the choice to name it Amazon.
That's a corporation.
No, Amazon is a trust. The corporation is the licensed business at the state level. At the Security and Exchange Commission, it's a trust. What is the Declaration of Independence, Bill of Rights, and Constitution? It is 3 chapters of one book. It is called a trust. You have a Declaration of Trust. That is your Declaration of Independence. Then you have the Constitution. That is your indenture that sets the rules the trustees have to follow. Then you have the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights is the rules that protect the beneficiaries of the trust. Okay, now, trustees have the power to create other trusts.
Okay, so who would be the beneficiaries then of the Declaration of or Bill of Rights?
The way I see it, the state is the beneficiaries, because we, the people, at the federal Constitution is not the people of the state. See, you have the we, the people of the state of whatever. That is the state citizens. You have the we, the people of the United States, is who? That's the representatives of the states who created the contract with the federal government and appointed the trustees. The trustees are your Article 1, Article 2, and Article 3. And you are not we the people of the federal Constitution because you're not a party to the contract. You are not one of the representatives. That's Barron versus City of Baltimore.
Yep, that's true right there. As well as New York City is not even part of the United States. It's the UN. King George financed both sides of the revolution and all kinds of stuff. It's 40 hidden secrets. I can pull it up right now. But I guess
some of that is misinformation you're putting out. The Treaty of Paris, yes, the Treaty of Paris, we did not win the Revolutionary War. There was a truce. D.C. and its territories and insular possessions are still property of the Crown, but the 50 states are sovereign countries.
That's what I was going to bring up a little bit earlier. Like the Secretary of State website for Indiana, I believe, has it on their website still to this day. One thing that David Strait was actually correct about, because it's actually proven that they like the CRIS system, the court registry system, it's for the intent of revenue for the crown, for the crown in actual words on their website.
Hold up. You're talking about the Attorney General's office.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Not the Secretary of State. The Office of the Attorney General, yes, I know about that because I'm the one that brought that out. I used to follow David Strait. Where do you think he got
I don't
from?
follow him, but I couldn't have been sure about that, but I'm just pointing it out. I know you know everything. You're the teacher, man. I'm the pupil. I don't.
Okay, now I'm trying to stay on topic per person. So Susan had a lot of questions about the trust, so we're trying to stay on that. Okay. Now, Susan, your question about the fiction. If the fiction is something that is by nature, you don't want to fight against nature. If you fight against nature or fight against God, you're going to lose. Even if you don't believe in it, you don't want to fight against it.
No, I mean, they are teaching that you don't fight the courts, you don't participate. You take yourself out of the fiction.
Give unto Caesar what Caesar's. Even whenever you try it, sometimes it doesn't work.
Well, I want to intervene.
I'm just not doing it the right way. I'm not saying it doesn't work. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, but I'm trying to figure it out.
I want to answer one of Susan's questions. You were asking what gives permission to do and create this trust. Well, your mother does, right? When your parents get married and they get a marriage license, they create a legally binding contract that when you go to the hospital that they can enforce, right? And then they come to you when you're just had a baby and you're completely exhausted in your most vulnerable moment, and they ask you to sign all these papers, and they tell you that they'll take care of it for you.
Right, and that's where the other people say that that's how we've been tricked. We're actually the beneficiaries, and they're the trustees, but they switched it when they created the birth certificate.
Tricked, Susan. No one is being tricked. It's that they have plausible deniability because ignorance of the law is no excuse. It's no one's fault.
Okay, whatever ignorance. There's a lot of people that are ignorant that aren't aware of this, trust and the birth certificate, significance and all that.
I'm not judging you.
What I'm saying, the point is that they switch the roles when they, give the whatever birth certificate or whatever document it is. They switch our roles so that we are no longer beneficiary, but we're the trustee, and they're the beneficiary instead of the trustee.
No, they didn't switch the roles.
You switched the role. You did it by your own hand. Everything is not.
We did it by, our mothers did it by signing the birth certificate. Okay, that's technicality. What I'm saying, I'm talking about the theory of, are we under a trust or it's not a trust, and and are we the beneficiary or or who is the beneficiary and who is the trustee? That's what I'm trying to get at. So let's not argue like little points.
Nobody's arguing anything. You're arguing. All right, so
we're getting mad.
Whatever.
Pissing me off.
Now, Susan, a lot of what you're saying is things I've heard over the years, and I believed some of that, but I no longer believe it because of the evidence.
Okay, that's where you need to fill in what evidence you're seeing, because that's the thing. You make a lot of statements and then you don't explain all the way. So I don't know where the proof is. You know what I mean? And not just you, but a lot of people. And I know I get it. During conversation.
That's why I asked you to come on. Okay. I did a 2-hour presentation where I showed a redacted copy of my birth record from the hospital. Okay.
Uh-huh.
The birth record is written a certain way differently on each of the important documents. See, the problem everybody has is the name. You keep thinking of the name as yours, yet you have no first-hand knowledge that Susan is your name.
No, it's not ours.
Okay.
It's not ours, but it's...
No, you know the difference between first-hand knowledge and hearsay, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have no first-hand knowledge that Susan is your name.
Can't your parents rescind their authorization, their signature, and take power of attorney? And I think I've seen this angle before. Like, why can't your parents rescind their signature? And
because the name on the birth certificate isn't you.
It's not us, but they've tricked us into thinking that it's us.
They
and
didn't
so,
trick
you know,
you in any way.
Deceived us.
They didn't deceive you. You made the presumption that it was you.
Okay. Whatever it is, whether we presumed it or whatnot. So let's say we correct it, right? We say, okay, we are not the trustee. We're not, or whatever, and do it like the way that other people said. I mean, why, so tell me where you've seen that did not work versus you resigning as agent worked to do what for you? Like, what has it done for you?
Okay. Brian Parker did the resignation of registered agent. He shows his document in his group, okay? Did he see an immediate response? No. But one day, because of a job interview, they said, we need a copy of your driving record. So he goes down to the DMV and gets his driving record. And it's one page. And he looks
I get it, but listen, my friend who did
hold on. You don't let me finish. Okay. So he goes down there and gets it, and it's one page, and he says, is that it? Yes. Is there anything else? I said, no. And this is what he told me. He said, every one of those bills of attainders that was on the driving record were removed. And he said, and I can tell you this now, in the state of Florida, there are some things on the driving record that will never be removed, but they were gone. I am making the presumption, because it's none of my damn business, that he probably had a DUI in his youth. Because that's one of the things Florida don't play with. Okay? But that's one of the only few things that Florida will permanently put on your record as a DUI. Now, he resigned as registered agent. Now, did it work? Yes. Did it change things? Yes. When you talk about evidence, I'm trying to explain things to you, okay? If you look up a video called Bankruptcy and Revised Article 9, Part 1, this is the Federal Judicial Center. At the 43-minute mark, Ms. LaRouche talks about the registered organization. And the guy 2 spots to her right pops off and says, well, yes, some say the state issues a birth certificate. Well, who gets birth certificates? We do. Why? Because the state gives it to you, but you don't know what it is and how it applies. So when I did my 2-hour presentation on this about a month ago, I sent it to a friend of mine, Myron Rice. And I said, Myron, I respect your opinion. Will you please critique my video? And he did. He watched it. And he said, you missed one thing at the 51-minute mark. I said, what is that? He said, the placenta. I said, Myron, come on now. I've heard that for years, but nobody has shown me evidence. He said, it's in our Michigan code. So I went to Westlaw and looked. And sure enough, the placenta is considered a live-born infant, the same as the baby. And when you had children, what did you do with the placenta? You left it with the hospital. You abandoned the infant.
Well, some people take it home.
Yes, but the average person does not.
So what happens to the people that take it home? Are they under different rules?
Did they record it? Because in New York, for example, you are to record both products of conception. So what happens? Typically, my mother, for example, abandoned the infant. She took the baby home. The baby and the infant are not the same. Since the hospital can only record what's in its possession, they recorded the placenta. The placenta is presumed dead. I've got that in a Harvard Law Review. And guess what happens? They have to provide, they place that birth record into a probate court. Because why? They're probating the estate. They provide the birth certificate to the parent custodian of the decedent.
Can you explain to people what probating the estate means?
That's what you do to any dead person. You probate the estate, the inheritance until the heirs come forward, which what did you not do? You didn't record the baby. So you have to merge the two back together because what happens at birth? The two are separated.
That sounds complicated.
Okay, I just like in a family Bible, like they did before the certificates were even conceptualized, right?
You know, it's interesting because
do we have to go to the hospital we were born at to try to retrieve the placenta, or I've heard that.
No, you go. I went to the hospital and got the birth record. You can't go get the placenta. The placenta's long gone.
Okay, I have a couple points. It's interesting because I was born abroad, and I have sort of a family Bible, like my birth was recorded in like a family Bible type of thing. And I never got a birth certificate or a certificate of live birth, but I did get a certificate of citizenship when I was, a certain age, and then I had to travel abroad. So then they created a certificate of citizenship for me. So that's really interesting. So before I got that, then I basically wasn't under their jurisdiction, right? My parents were naturalized, and then back then they said that, the kids are automatically naturalized when the parents are, so you don't need documents for the children. They just gave documents for my parents, but they said the children are automatically naturalized when the parents are naturalized. So,
that's birthright.
I see.
So trip to Ohio and DC is in my near future.
Can I say something real quick? I just something that I came across that I thought was very interesting. You were talking about the placenta and biblical and all this kind of stuff. See, the way I see it is it doesn't matter whether you believe in the Bible or not, because the people in the government do. That's what you should be concerned about, is what they believe. Not what you believe, because you can believe any way you want. That's your right. However, going back to the placenta, when you leave it behind in the hospital, what do they do with it? They turn it into carbon ash. Do you know the properties of carbon ash? Look up the properties of carbon ash and then look it on the periodical table at 666.
That's interesting. Why does everything they do come up to 666? I mean, the word computer, if you know how to do that mathematics, that's 666 too. Now,
some people these days have the hospital make the placenta into capsules, and then the mother takes those capsules after she goes home after the birth.
To me, that's weird. You don't eat your offspring.
They also take the footprints of the soul.
Yeah, but the reason why, see, here's the thing. The reason why cutting that umbilical cord is such a violent act is because when the baby's born, and now some countries still do this, and you can look it up, that placenta is supposed to stay with that baby for 3 to 4 days until that placenta falls off on its own.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to take all that nutrient away from that baby.
Yes.
But since they started doing that, well, look at all the problems we have that is just escalating. I mean, it makes perfect sense.
Circumcision too. That's not natural, but that's not supposed
I
to be.
don't. Now that's
It's
another
biblical.
subject. That's
No,
it's
that's
to
both
each their
BS.
own.
Okay, it creates a lot of trauma for the baby, and if you don't believe it, just watch a video on it. So there's a
Oh,
lady that wrote a book called The Business of Baby. So I recommend that if anybody wants to know about how the hospitals and how our birthing in the hospitals has gotten so corrupted and so effed up, and it's not away from what it's supposed to be.
Say it real quick again.
The Business of Baby.
yeah. That's because the Rothschilds funded MD-directed medicine.
Oh yeah.
It's the white lab coats are the new witch doctors of today. You know.
Unknowingly.
No.
So the other thing I wanted to make the other thing I wanted to point out is my friend who did acceptance for value also got traffic tickets and things that were on her record. She also did not. They disappeared off her record.
Mm-hmm. When you do things correctly, this happens. I did it on a traffic ticket recently.
But she doesn't do the unregistering of agents. She did the Winston Trout way, which I know about Winston Trout and his whole story. But she did what do you call it, security agreement. She's basically the one who told me about the trust, that we're the beneficiary and we get tricked into being the trustee, blah, blah, blah. And so she did a security agreement and then affidavit of obligation commercial lien. And so she put the first lien on the trust, and she's gotten some debts discharged. She's gotten some student loans discharged and whatever. And then, the traffic tickets that were supposed to be on her record, they're not, stuff like that. So
I disagree with what you keep saying about us being the trustees. And here's why. I called Vital Records, and that video I did, it's on my Rumble channel. I play a recording of Vital Records. 3 different phone calls. I play a portion of the recordings. They admit the birth record is property of the state. Okay. They also admit to the probate file. And I can't remember the third thing they admitted. But that means if it's their property, they are the grantors of the trust. The trustees are listed on the Social Security website.
And who is listed?
The Secretary of the Treasury is the first trustee. Why? They're the bank. The second trustee is the Secretary of the Department of Labor.
But are they talking about the master trust? Is there like a master trust and then we are like, whatever the individual or subsidiary trust for them?
No, you need to quit thinking we are. No, we are not. Okay.
Oh, I was going to make a point and I forgot.
That's all right. You'll remember.
You said. Okay, so Shrout was saying that we are the contributing beneficiary and the settlers of the trust. We are what brings value to the trust.
Yes.
If it wasn't for our energy and our existence, there would be no value in that trust.
That is not entirely wrong, because they need you to play the part of the dummy. The dummy in law is one who has no interest in the transaction, but is only there to help achieve a legal goal. That's Black's Law Dictionary, 11th edition, definition 1.
Mm-hmm.
The second definition is one who purchased property that is owned by another. And it says, see strawman. Definition 3.
Okay.
You go to definition 3 of strawman, it points you right back to definition 2 of dummy.
Mm-hmm.
See, we're playing the part of the dummy. I made this discovery in that 7-year court case I had, because when the 5th court-appointed attorney, when I recorded the phone call, and I still have it, he said, when I asked him about the GSA bonus that I did, oh, I can't talk to you about that because of attorney-client privilege. And everybody I played that recording for said, wait a minute, wasn't that your attorney? I said, no. He represented the estate. Okay? See, we are wrong. We keep thinking of that as our name and our estate. No, it's not. Now go back to what I was saying about Vital Records. Vital Records
No,
said they own the birth.
she's not saying it's ours. She's saying that
know,
it was created, you know, in the guise of our benefit. And so why not, you know, sort of use the system against them? And
yes,
uh-huh.
but where is your evidence that you are the beneficiary?
Because why would the trust exist without us, right? That's, you know, and that's the thing. I feel like that's common sense. Like, I don't see it as common sense that they could just create a trust from no real thing, you know?
They created the Social Security trust account without us. In 1935, when it was passed into law, did they need you to create it? No. The legislature, Article 1, has the power to create laws. They don't need you to do it.
Okay, they can create laws, but then, you know, we don't, you know, but if it's fictional, then we can sort of, you know, call them out on it.
That don't mean it's not real just because you say it's fiction. What does fiction mean?
I'm having a hard time believing that they can just create trust for nothing. Like they've got to have some kind of, you know, it's got to be for some real thing. So, you know, it just doesn't
lays out their power. Where in the Constitution did they violate the Constitution by creating the Social Security trust account? Nowhere.
Or unlimited power to contract?
Article 1, Section 10, the contract clause. Yes.
You say they believe in the Bible, but how could they hold us as surety for debts without our consent? They explicitly deny consent to be.
That they are. How many times have you heard these teachers over the year say you are the U.S. citizen because you are receiving benefits through the Social Security number? Guess what I did? I filed a FOIA request with the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Office, which is part of Homeland Security that keeps records of all U.S. citizens and people that immigrate into the country. And I asked them, I put my name down in every appellation, first, middle, last, given name, family name, first, middle, initial, last, first, and last. And I said, and I want any record showing that I am a U.S. citizen. And they come back and said, what? There's no responsive records. Don't
you have a certificate of citizenship?
No, I don't have a certificate of citizenship.
Why don't you?
Because I've never gotten one, because I didn't even know I needed to.
Well, I have one just because I had to travel abroad.
Yes, but you are a different story because you was born abroad, just like my wife was born abroad. But just because you were born abroad doesn't mean you are a U.S. citizen. Because why?
I don't know. I mean, if the certificate doesn't prove that I'm a citizen, then what is the certificate? You know, what do you need that document for? You know?
Now you might have a certificate of U.S. citizenship. Okay, that's fine. I don't have.
So isn't your question, is it real, right? For everyone, is the U.S. citizen thing a real thing? That's your question, right?
No.
Not just for you.
No. One, what are the states? They are 50 sovereign countries, correct?
I mean, that's what they're, I guess, originally meant to be, right?
That's right. They still are. Now, those states have citizens. Those citizens, according to Chisholm v. Georgia and Hell versus Hinkle, are sovereigns without subjects. Okay? Those sovereigns without subjects elected representatives. Those representatives then in turn created the federal government. Up until the 14th Amendment, the federal government did not have citizens. Now,
okay,
that the United States was, is, and always has been a foreign jurisdiction to the 50 states, just like each of the states are a foreign jurisdiction to each other. That's the purpose of the Commerce Clause, to make sure the states play fair with each other.
So what is your point about the U.S. citizen? That it doesn't exist, or that just you aren't one?
Hold on. The United States has its own citizens. Okay? So which one are you? You make the presumption that you are a U.S. citizen because what have we been taught over the years? We've been taught since the mid-1900s the only nation is the United States. But that is not what the Governmental Styles Manual says. The Governmental Styles Manual on page 109 of the PDF or 95 in the book says nationalities. And what does it say then how to denominate nationalities? You have Texan, North Carolinian, Wisconsinian or whatever. Those
I know a guy who did that.
Yeah.
He basically made his own ID card and declared himself a Californian.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So what we've done, and it's what we've not realized, is the very presumptions the courts make, we do the same thing. So now that goes right back into your trust question. What power does the federal government have over its citizens, over its territories, and its possessions? It can create whatever trust it wants, name it whatever it wants. So go back to the list of trustees. The second trustee is the Secretary of the Department of Labor. Why? Because when you got a job, you filled out a W-2. You put the name, you put the social, and you put the address. Well, who's the employee? See, we go and think we are the employee. No. Under the 14th Amendment, all corporations, all businesses, and all trusts are legal persons. So guess what? The trust is the employee. So the Secretary of the Department of Labor has to keep up with what it's doing because that is the trustee. You put the address for the Office of Registered Agent for service of process.
Okay, now, so how do you use that to your advantage then? Knowing that, how do you use it so that you don't get
a registered agent holds no liability for the principal. The reason why everybody is getting liable isn't because you are being treated as the trustee, because trustee descent doesn't mean you are the trustee. Trustee descent means you were trying to make decisions for the trust unlawfully. You're trying to make decisions you don't have the authority to do. So guess what? What should you be doing? Go look at the freaking codes in your state. It tells you what the responsibility is of the registered agent. As soon as you get a service of process, you are to notify the principal. What are we not doing?
So who's the principal then? The
trustees.
secretary? So as when they send us a notice, we're supposed to send it back to them.
That's what I think we should do. And Myron Rice is actually, he did it for a long time.
To the judge and the Secretary of Labor, right?
No.
To who? Department of Treasury?
Nope. I'm getting ready to send you the list. I'm getting ready to put
You said registered agents are not liable or are not whatever for the trust or for the so then why is it bad to be a registered agent if we're not liable?
I didn't say it was bad.
The
purpose of me bringing it up is, what is nobody... Now, Susan, you've been in this movement a little while. Are you familiar with the term secured party creditor?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is the number one thing about the secured party creditor that everybody talks about? They talk about creating your own trust. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that taught me about trust law. And I said, wait a minute here. Now, this is where I do thank Chris Hauser for what he's done, even though I think some of his information is absolutely flawed. But he did take the veil off my eyes when it comes to the Social Security account. What is it? It's a trust. What type of trust? It is a statutory trust because it is regulated by statute, right?
Okay.
So guess what? That means the same laws of when it comes to trust apply to it. And it brought to my mind everything I've learned, that you're already a secured party. The trust is right there in front of you, but you're not applying the principles of trust to it. Because if you were, you would realize, wait a minute, all this crap that they're doing to us, we're not doing our fiduciary duty. It's a symbiotic relationship.
Well, I get that they've deceived us. They've deceived us into thinking a certain thing, so that okay, I'm not going to argue that point, but that so that we're not doing something that we should be doing. Okay, I get that part of it. You know, that there's something that we need to do that we haven't done, and that's why we're suffering, right? So that's the whole key, is finding out. But you're saying that the solution is just to send stuff back that they send to us because they are the trustees. So whoever you list as the trustees are, we just send, whenever we get a notice, we send it back to them to take care of instead of us taking care of it?
No, I didn't say anything about you saying whoever the trustees are. Who do they say the trustees are?
I don't know. It's, you Department of Treasury or whatever.
Yes, I put the link in the group. Okay. You have 6 trustees. It says the Board of Trustees currently consists of 6 members, 4 of whom automatically serve by virtue of their position in the federal government. These 4 are the Secretary of the Treasury, the managing trustee, the Secretary of Labor, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, and the Commissioner of Social Security. Those are your 4 main trustees. Now, you got a Social Security card. I sat down with 2 $500-hour attorneys and had a lot of this same conversation over the Trading with the Enemy Act, the birth certificate, the social, the whole 9 yards. And I held up my social near the end of the conversation and said, "Is that my name?" He said, "I presume it is." Now, my dad was with me. My dad paid them $2,000 for this conversation. Okay?
This is where people would disagree with you, saying that lawyers are idiots. They don't know anything. They're trained in that fictional law. So what do they know?
I never said they're idiots. They're actually no more than people realize. I sit here and I held my social. I said, "Is that my name?" And the younger attorney said, "I presume it is." and I flipped it over on the back and I read the sentence. This card is property of the Social Security Administration and must be returned upon request. And I looked at him and said, how can that be my name if I don't own it? He said, I see the problem. And I looked at the head attorney, who was the older gentleman that respects my father. And I said, now, everything I laid out, do you see a flaw? And he point blank looked me in the eye and he said, unfortunately, no, I can't. He said, it is logical, it is concise, and I can't punch a hole in a single argument you said. Because he tried. And he's not the only attorney that's actually told me this. An attorney in California 6 months ago told me, he said, you know, I've looked at people's videos and people that talk about this, and he said, and you are the first person that makes it make sense.
So, but why is it important that we do or do not own the name? I mean, even if we don't own the name, right? If they
ownership means liability. What do the elite live by? They live by the principle that own nothing, yet control everything. Because why? Ownership means liability. Now, if you take it back to its logical conclusion, who actually owns it all? God does. They know this.
It goes back to the fundamental of like there being options and our God-given right to self-determination, but we were denied that.
You were not.
So then, what if
decision was made for us?
What if someone steals your things that you bought? Then what? You know, if no one owns anything, then how do you get your stuff back, or how do you get compensated or made whole for that?
Hold on. Now you're bringing up another subject. Let me go find it.
If we don't own anything, that's the complicated part, right?
No. Let me see if I can find the definition, because I've got it.
Isn't that what the Bible says, that you will own nothing and all that good stuff?
No. The Bible doesn't. The Bible.
In Revelation, when you take the mark?
No, well, that's the mark
of we have dominion over everything.
Yeah, that's the mark of the beast. That's something different. Where is it at? I gotta find it. I'm looking for the definition of property according to American jurisprudence. Because people don't realize what property is. And property is not what you think it is.
What is proper to man? That's what property is. What no other can lay claim to.
No. Property is not the tangible item.
He who creates owns. Maxim of law.
That is a maxim of law, but you don't understand why.
Whoever creates.
Because I fought that argument in court, like and what Wheeling versus Wheeling Steel Corp or something versus that one, and that trader said that my children weren't my property. I claimed them as my property because they are my property. That's another thing that their mother could not stand.
You know why he said that is because he knew you didn't know the legal definition of property.
Okay, while you're looking up that, Pastor, I just want to tell you that Black Law's definition of mark means a character, usually in the form of a cross, made as a substitute for his signature by a person who cannot write in the executing a conveyance or other legal document. Just saying.
Yeah, I understand that.
I mean, what about mark?
That's the legal definition of mark.
Why
Right.
is she bringing that up? Why are you bringing that up right now?
Well,
But she was
because
talking about the mark of the beast and what she said a second ago.
right, because I said that the mark was biblical, and because the Bible is in layers, it doesn't necessarily mean what most people think it means, not in my eyes anyway. So when you sign or you do a signature in cursive, to me, that's what I believe it is.
No, I don't believe that, because I actually look at the mark differently, and I think we're fastly approaching the mark of the beast, because without it you can't buy or sell, which means what? We're getting into a new monetary system that we call blockchain and crypto.
I
That is
think
what
we're
the
already
mark
there.
is going to be. No, we are not there, because the Antichrist has not been revealed, because that is who's going to implement the mark.
Did you see Troy Cox's writings on money and the root of the word mon eye, like one eye, and how, you know, basically the root of all evil, whatever and
The love of money is the
yeah,
root of
the
all
love of
evil.
money. Yeah, love of money. And gosh, what was he saying about money? He just said a bunch of things which I thought was, you know, pretty profound. But then at the same time, you're thinking, well, how do you trade with people, or how do you, um, do labor for someone or do something for someone and then get something back without, some sort of currency or some sort of, something to trade with.
Money is just a medium of exchange. You can trade whatever you want. A friend of mine up in Minnesota, I call him Crazy Mark. And guess what? If he's got his bag of rice on his hip, they will not let him in the courtroom.
Why?
You heard about the what's it called? The coffee bean case?
No.
Well, under the coffee bean case, I can't remember the guy's name. He settled a debt using coffee beans because the judge said he could. This was in the 1980s. He actually did. His wife left him, and she ran up the Montgomery Ward credit card to over $1,000. I think it was $1,090.98. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was. And I've got a portion of the transcripts. So what did he do? He went to court. Yeah, it was my credit card. Yeah. The judge said, okay, pay the debt. He said, but that's the problem, Your Honor. What is a dollar? A dollar is just a unit of measurement. My question is, dollar of what? And the judge says, I don't care if you pay with frankincense and myrrh. And so, they went on and on about it. And he finally looked at the judge. He says, Judge, we still have got to figure this out. You have not answered the question, dollar of what? He said, I don't care if you pay in coffee beans. He said, okay, coffee beans it is.
I've heard that one.
It's a true
and that was
story.
And what year was this?
I think in 84. It was in the 1980s.
1980s?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And because of that, my buddy Mark in Minnesota has a bag of rice, and on the bag it has a dollar symbol. When he goes to court, it's on his pouch. It's on his hip. They won't let him in the courtroom with that bag of rice.
Why?
Because dollar of what? For him, that rice has value.
Mm-hmm. So then what do they accomplish by not letting him in court? That means they can never try the case, right?
That means they can't get trapped by their own rules. and he can make them accept those grains of rice for payment.
Because of that coffee bean precedent?
It's not precedent because it didn't get appealed. It is the principle of money. There is none. And under U.S. law, you cannot demand payment in any certain species. That's the reason why they took us off the gold clause.
Can you tell me where to find that you cannot pay in any certain species?
I could post that. I'll find it right now.
Yeah, I'd have to find it. I know it. I just don't know which code it is.
So does that mean you can't name how you get paid? Like you just have to accept whatever somebody, however someone pays you?
No. What do? We make presumptions. Do we not? We make presumptions all the time. So we assume Federal Reserve notes, right? So what do? We make our payments in Federal Reserve notes. Guess what? The IRS will not accept Federal Reserve notes. Why? Because a Federal Reserve note is a promissory note, and they do not accept promissory notes as payment.
Who doesn't?
The IRS.
They don't accept promissory notes as Federal Reserve notes as payments. Then what do they accept?
They don't accept promissory notes as payments. What is a Federal Reserve note? It's a promissory note. That's why you can't take cash to the local tax office and pay taxes, because they don't accept promissory notes. The courts have ruled that promissory notes are also a form of payment. That is the reason why we can use promissory notes, aka Federal Reserve notes.
I don't know. Is anyone else here confused by that? So that the courts take FRNs, but the IRS does not take FRNs. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. I'm not saying it. They say it.
Think of the Federal Reserve note as a debt note. You can't pay a debt with a debt.
Right.
Correct. There, I finally found it. Now.
He's not saying that you can't get a money order or something to that extent. He's saying that you can't use cash. They won't accept cash.
That's right. A money order and cash are not the same things. See, we tend to look at, I write a check, or I take cash, or I take a money order. We tend to think of them as all the same things. They're not. They're all legal tender. They all are ways to settle debts, but they're not the same. Now, I finally found it. If you look at the document that I just shared, this is the general legal definition from American jurisprudence for the word property. The legal definition of property most often refers not to a particular physical object, but rather to the legal bundle of rights recognized in that object, which bundle of rights include the rights to possess, use, and dispose of a particular article. The term property embodies more than just the physical corporal assets. It can include intangible entities, such as rights and interest. So you have rights, but can you hold them? No. They're intangible. Rights and interest are only in the tangible item. So back to the guy that talked about his children were his property. And the judge said, no, they're not. Why? They say, well, you can't own people. They know that he didn't know the definition of property. I would have come back to the judge and said, wait a minute, Your Honor, that's my offspring. I have rights and interest in that offspring.
So what I've been taught,
how they are not my property.
What I've been taught about legalese is that you don't want to call them children. You want to say your son or daughter, just like you don't want to be a person. You want to be a man or a woman.
That's why I said
I don't even know if offspring is the one of the legalese traps, but
definitely not kids, because I don't have baby goats.
Well,
yeah, but
offspring, that comes from Bible, just like
children,
and daughter comes from the Bible.
Children is a legal definition. So if you define them in a legal definition, then you are setting the jurisdiction that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, to a degree, you're right.
I would like you to go further on about the how you got on the money thing and you can pay the courts but not the IRS with FRNs. So tell us how that is significant, or how that helps settle things, or empower you, or whatever.
That is under the congressional record of March 9th, 1933. How did they create this New Deal? What was the purpose? The congressional record of March 9th, 1933 actually lays out the purpose.
The purpose is?
I gotta go find it. So
I just don't see, you kind of talk in, mysteries, saying like you're saying, or how it helps us. So then we're sort of left to sort of try to figure out, it's like you're giving us pieces, but you're not there, kind of thing.
I'm giving you their pieces because they admit everything.
I really don't understand what is significant about the courts accepting FRNs, but the IRS not accepting FRNs. I just don't get that. I don't get what your point is on that.
The IRS is a debt collector. So if they are collecting debts, why would they want to be paid with a debt note? Whereas the court is a bank.
So then, but IRS is paid by what? Like either usually checks or electronic, transferring of funds, right?
No.
So you're saying
they are actually paid in securities, because there's only two ways to pay anything: a promissory note or a security.
So the security is what?
Under the UCC, anything that has a maturity date of 9 months or less is a promissory note. 9 months or more than 9 months is a security. That is the only type of legal tender we have in our system here.
Okay, so I think you need to go further. Explain it further.
There's a guy in Greensboro that my dad did a job for. He was a secured party creditor. My dad was telling him about all the stuff that we've done. The guy was finishing every sentence. That's when Dad realized this guy knew the secured party creditor process intimately. His house is valued over $2 million. Mm-hmm. And Dad looked at him and said, so everything you got is in a trust? He said, yeah. And they got to talking about taxes. Okay. And Dad said, yeah, no, he told my dad, he said, yeah, the IRS sent him a letter one time saying he owed so much in taxes. So what did he do? He went home that night, sat on his computer, wrote out a payment bond, and sent it to the IRS. They sent him back a letter that said, thank you for your payments. Dad said, wait a minute. You didn't send them an international bill of exchange? He said, nope. Because they just take that payment bond and put it on the market. Take it to the Treasury. The Treasury, in turn, sells it to the Federal Reserve. No bank can loan money. They can only buy promissory notes and securities. That's the reason the Treasury gets the ability to print Federal Reserve notes, because the Federal Reserve agrees to buy the securities. You should go watch the Gordon Hall appeal. It's a 25-minute video. Okay?
What is that?
Gordon Hall, you familiar with that name, right?
No.
He was, what was the guy's name you listed earlier? The guru guy, Winston Shrout. He was in the group with Winston Shrout and those people. Gordon Hall wrote a $22 trillion international bill of exchange for the national debt. He got arrested for tax fraud. But now go listen to the appeal and pay. He made 2 mistakes as the reason why he got in trouble. One, you can't do it for the national debt. You're not allowed to free everyone. The second thing he did was he used ABA routing numbers. That's protected under public rights doctrine because of Congress's power to regulate currency. Okay? But pay close attention to what the judge said, in the middle judge, the older judge. He looks at the U.S. attorney and says, you can't charge him with tax fraud. He said, because the expert witness that testified in court said the International Bill of Exchange met every legal requirement to be a valid bill of exchange. In other words, it was a legal form of payment.
So what did he do? He wrote
an international bill of exchange for the national debt.
Okay. But you can't do it for the national debt, you're saying?
No. You can only do it for your debt.
Okay.
Now here we go. Here's the congressional record of March 9th, 1933. Okay. They placed us under a bank holiday. Okay. It says under the new law, under the new law, the money is issued to the banks in return for government obligations, bills of exchange, drafts, notes, trade acceptances, and bankers' acceptances. The money will be worth 100 cents on the dollar because it is backed by the credit of the nation. Now that tapping, please stop. Whoever's tapping on their phone screen. It will represent a mortgage on all the homes and other property of the people of the nation. Now, why did I bring up the word property? In other words, it's the rights and interest. So they mortgaged all the homes and your rights and interests to provide the new currency. The money so issued will not have 1 penny of gold coverage behind it because it is really not needed. We do not need gold to back our internal currency. We only need gold to settle our balances with foreign countries. Our people do not actually use gold as a medium of exchange. Paper money is just as good and is much easier to handle. However, if gold is desired as a backing for paper money, we have a sufficient amount to permit the issuance of 5 billion more money and still have a gold reserve of 40%. See, when they created this currency, they laid out what it would be. Obligations of the United States. Now, how did they set up the obligations? Under the trust. How do they track the obligations? Through the social. The problem is you don't know who you are as a player in the game, and it is a symbiotic relationship. They can't balance your portion of the books because you're not filing the proper paperwork for them to be able to. Yet, you turn around and call it fraud when they sit here and tell you everything they did, but you don't go read it. Now,
So did your father learn how that guy did it and do it for himself?
My dad me and my father don't file taxes.
No, I mean, like, how he did the thing for his house or something. Or maybe not.
Taxes.
Okay, you're talking about taxes.
Mm-hmm. We don't file taxes. When I get a letter in the mail, I'll handle things accordingly.
Hey, real quick question, Pastor. In theory, anybody could write that with what he wrote then to dissolve that? I mean, one person tried to do it, then you're saying everybody has the ability to write one.
Yes.
You mean everybody can write that to, quote, settle whatever debts?
If you know the principles and how to defend it, yes. And Shane, thank you for speaking up. Shane knows my dad, so he can tell you if I speak about my dad, I'm telling the truth.
100%. Now, what was the name of that he wrote again, just so I can research?
A payment bond.
And just about everything that Pastor's father has is in a trust. Just about everything.
Yeah, and that's my wife.
Susan, the what he was telling you in the thing about the lawful money with the and then you earlier in the conversation you were talking about how a friend did the accept for value and all that kind of stuff. That is what's called a banker's acceptance. So that is one of those things on the list that Pastor just told you about.
Mm-hmm. Go look at Title 18 USC 8. See, when you go to court, I had a conversation with an attorney in North Carolina, and his name is Mike Slosser. You can look him up. He's classified as a top attorney. And he asked me one day, he said, how good are you at contracts? I said, Mike, everything's a contract. I don't care if it's a civil case or a criminal case. He said, well, I don't agree with that. I said, why? Because, see, Mike was a criminal defense attorney, a big-time attorney. He took down a judge. Okay? If he had lost that case, he would have been blackballed.
He was a former district attorney too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a district attorney too. And Mike, I said, why do you not agree with that? I said, when you were defending your clients and the judge asked you questions, did you ever ask the judge to define the words, or did you presume to know what he meant? And guess the look on his face was priceless. And after that, he started teaching his attorney buddies what I was teaching him. When you go to court, traffic ticket, I never called it a ticket. I called it an instrument of value, a debt instrument, because that's what it is. They're creating securities to put on the court registry investment system. I said it's an instrument of debt. A debt instrument or an instrument of value, which makes it what? An obligation of the United States. And she said, are you giving me a ticket number? I said, ma'am, if you believe that's what it is, that's on you. Because by law, what is it? It's not a traffic ticket. It's an instrument of value. It's a debt instrument. When you look at Title 18 U.S.C. 8, that makes it an obligation of the United States.
So how do you turn it into an obligation of the United States instead of your obligation?
By knowing what it is.
And then what? What do you do?
I didn't turn it into nothing. It is what it is.
So then how do you keep yourself from getting in trouble? Let's put this down into practical terms. Like, what would you do if there's some notice that came that you are fined or you are, you've got some whatever? What would you do?
In that case, I went through a DOT inspection. I'm a commercial truck driver. And I got a ticket for a tail light, for my reverse light being out. What is a ticket under the law? Knowing the courts are banks and they monetize every single case into the municipal bond market, what is it? It's not a ticket. It's an instrument of value.
It's a coupon.
Or people say it's an offer.
It is an offer because what is any negotiable instrument comes with an offer and an acceptance. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't negate the fact at its root, it is an instrument of value because every single contract is an instrument of value. It has value to someone. So if it's an instrument of value under Title 18 U.S.C. 8, that makes it an obligation of the United States under the New Deal. And the New Deal was established March 9th, 1933.
Okay, so you still haven't said what you would do if you got a fine or some notice of fine.
In that case, what did I do? I just told the clerk what it was and who the secured party was. The secured party was the United States. She says, are you the name? I said, ma'am, that name is owned by the United States and they're the secured party in this matter. And I am just the beneficiary, and it is my duty to notify the principal of anything that affects its interest.
And then what did she do?
Can you hold? She says, can you hold? And she come back a minute later and says, well, that matter's been sealed and dismissed. That was 12 days before the supposed court date.
What about UCC 9-307?
I didn't tell her anything about a UCC.
So basically, you just told her this. You didn't have to write anything. You just told it to her, and then she talked to someone and got it dismissed.
Yes.
Now, did she send you anything confirming that? Because I know some others have done that, but never got anything made done.
The signed order is the signed order. Shane is on my TikTok.
Yeah, I'm just doing this for her benefit, not mine.
Yeah. The signed, me and Fearless Floyd on his YouTube channel, you can see the redacted order on his YouTube channel. So yes, she sent the signed order. She didn't want to at first. Fearless Floyd has a copy of the phone recording because I recorded the phone call. And my wife just spoke up. Yes, she did send the order. But she only sent the order after I declared who I was and did a demand letter to her and gave her 10 days to do it. Now, the supposed court date was March 28th. That's a Monday. She received my demand notice on the 24th and must have went, oh shit, because she went and printed the order out that day, went right back to the post office, and express mailed it to my house from upstate New York all the way to North Carolina, and it got there over the weekend, and it was at my house on the 28th.
So what is the order? What are you talking about, order?
They sealed and dismissed the case. That order.
That's called an order?
Yeah, it was an order the judge signed to seal the record and dismiss the case.
So I've been hearing this thing that dismissal is not the same thing as discharge, because dismissals can be overturned or whatever, right?
That's correct.
Discharge is not the same thing as offset.
So, like, you really want to try to discharge the case. Is that one of your videos that you posted? I don't know. I saw it somewhere.
On Rumble, yeah. The first video was the ticket. Just a little 1 minute video of the ticket.
Uh-huh. So how do you get a ticket discharged?
I'd have probably done something different.
It depends on the ticket, I'm sure.
Well, it depends on the process, too. But to me, dismissed was good enough.
Well, dismissals...
They want to make their money. Okay, fine. Go make your money. Just leave me out of it.
I've heard dismissal. They can re-bring the action, though.
Yeah.
So what if they bring it back? Don't you think I'll know how to handle that? I recorded the phone call.
Okay. I got my ticket dismissed by a friend helped me do a notice of fictitious obligation. So basically, I first tried a common law letter, which another friend, a truck driver, helped me with, and that didn't work. They just ignored it. And then I tried acceptance for value, which my friend helped me with, and that didn't work either. And they just ignored that. And so then I tried this notice of fictitious obligation, and then my ticket got dismissed. And what was different with the first common law letter was that it made them accountable. There's saying that, you're making a claim. So if you are making a false claim, this is what you owe, or something like that. And so it had sort of more teeth in it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So it got dismissed, but I don't know if I'm happy for now, but I don't know if dismissal is, really permanently off the record. Just in case, I wrote on the
dismissal. No, it's still not sealed. They can still see it attached to the social.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's not attached to you. You are just playing the part as the registered agent for the social. That's the reason why Brian Parker. What actually is a ticket? It's a bill of attainder. That's the reason why when he resigned as registered agent, they got rid of all those bills of attainders. But if you resign as registered agent, you're kind of giving up some control, and that's what KW talked about, in my opinion, is why he feels like he shouldn't have handled things the way he did.
What is a bill of attainder?
In a second, I'll tell you.
That's interesting that if you resign as agent, the bills of attainders disappear.
Mm-hmm.
I've got something on that, and it's basically illegal. It's unlawful, definitely. It's judgment before before trial. Actually, it's like
Are
a
you looking it
predetermined
up?
outcome.
Are you looking it up in Black's Law Dictionary?
I I will try to find what I'm talking about.
That's why I said hold on, let me look it up. A bill of attainder. First definition, archaic, a special legislative act that imposes a death sentence on a person without trial. 2, a special legislative act prescribing punishment without a trial for a specific person or group. Bills of attainder are prohibited by the U.S. Constitution. Also termed Act of Attainder. Now, what is a traffic ticket? It's a debt instrument. They already are trying to put a debt to you before there's actually a trial. Because what is a ticket? It's a debt instrument.
That's why they'll dismiss rather than discharge, because they get paid on the dismiss, but not the discharge.
What do they tell you? Oh, we'll dismiss the case as long as you pay the fine. They need to make the trust profitable. And they put these negotiable instruments called municipal bonds onto the court registry investment system, which ultimately goes to the Treasury and the Federal Reserve so the government can print currency.
Where is the the evidence for that these things are traded as bonds and it goes to some
Okay.
I will share the video that where I found my CUSIP number on Fidelity.
And I very seriously doubt that you are going to be accurate. No offense, because I would be.
I'm going to post pictures.
Hold on. What you've done, I've done. I would be willing to bet I've went through the same process, and it is not hard evidence. It is only a presumption.
What, the fact that we have CUSIP numbers?
No, not just CUSIPs. Fidelity shut that down years ago.
I did this last week.
It. Like I said, just saying. Go ahead, share your video.
So what are you saying? The CUSIP doesn't prove that we have a CUSIP number and that they use that to trade?
No, the CUSIP numbers is how securities are tracked. And yes, back in the day, it was known to go to Fidelity and look it up. Fidelity shut that down because it got exposed almost 10 plus years ago. So every process that everybody has put out there to go to Fidelity, I've done. So people today, no offense, Jeff, that says I went to Fidelity and found it, I doubt it, because I've tried every possible way to do the same thing and I get nothing. And I know I am not just this invisible person floating around out there.
I'd like to be.
Just like everybody says, I never make statements that I don't provide proof for. So, I'm whether it's legitimate or not, whether it's real or not, all I did was put the numbers on my birth certificate in there the way that I was shown, and it brought up what it brought up.
Yes, but
I'm posting pictures.
Here's the thing you're missing. Anywhere on that so-called CUSIP, when you pull up the CUSIP to track it, do you find your name anywhere?
It's a valid point.
You're making a presumption. I just shared the link and the PDF for the diagram of how it's laid out. And it gives you a long list underneath of minor accounts. And they're all federal court case docket numbers. And I very seriously doubt they're dealing with children.
Yeah, I saw that Fearless's video on YouTube about his where he brought up, all the bonds under his name, all of his court cases and whatnot. That's one of the
only true way to find the CUSIP numbers attached to the estate is you got to go to an actual broker that deals in securities and pay them to find them, because they can not only show that the name is attached, they can give you the details on the value of each of the bonds. The problem is those in the investment arena that know this, that have access to a Bloomberg terminal, 99% of them are going to ignore you because they will get kicked out of the club if it is found out that they're doing it. And hopefully, a friend of mine will, at some point this year, get her investment license because she's actually going to assist in this. We've been talking about it, and she says she's going to look at doing it.
Okay, so going back to the registered agent, you're saying the proof is in, like Brian Parker's story where the bill of attainders disappeared and whatever. So it's basically something that you infer, but it's not actually written anywhere and documented anywhere.
What's not documented?
That you're a registered agent until you just decide you're not.
Is it documented like if you go down to the Secretary of State's office and do a business search for an LLC? No, it is not documented like that. Correct. But is it?
But don't they have to?
No.
Don't they? Why not? Because I mean, aren't they supposed to tell us everything they do?
Did they not tell you back in the day? Don't you remember back in the day that they said do not use the Social Security account as identification? And what did the people do? See, the government is giving the people what they want. The people said, okay, yeah, we saw where it said don't use for identification, but the people chose to use it for identification anyway. Because why? Oh, they asked for it. The government tried to warn you. So what did they do? They took it off.
Then how do you explain the coercion of having to fill out a bail form to get out of their illegal confinement kidnapping whenever you bail out, because they extort your social out of you, or you don't bail out?
It's not your social.
But it's also not to be requested either. You shouldn't be forced to provide it.
That's a moot point. You said your social. Give me evidence that it's yours.
That is a valid, and I don't claim that it is mine. but it's in their laws. It's in their laws that it's not to be requested. Is it not?
He who makes the claim has the burden of proof. If you say it's in the law, show the law. By the way, you shared your pictures. I already told you ahead of time. I've done the same thing.
I'll redact all the redactions. I'll take the covers off.
The point is, I did the very same thing you did in front of my wife, printed it out, analyzed everything when it come to the ticker symbol. I looked mine up the same way. And what do you not see? See, you are making a presumption because you punched in numbers that it's your social. It is no different than the GMEI utility.
It wasn't my social, but I know it's not mine. I don't claim anything. To be all honest,
the point I'm getting at is those numbers. I'm presuming are the digits on the cards you hold.
On the birth certificate, not the social.
Okay, whatever document you're using, you're making the presumption that because I typed those numbers in, that it ties to that, but you have no concrete evidence that it does. You just accessed the database, punched in some numbers, it gave you a ticker symbol with no evidence that it's actually that.
I get what, and I don't even care about having, unlimited credit or anything. I just want out either way. Even if I don't win my battles in this B system, if I'm not worthy enough, I'm just gonna freaking disappear out into the middle of nowhere, be a freaking hermit, live off the land. I don't care either way. I'm getting out. Doesn't matter if I accomplish what I want to or not. I mean, because it's like, I think it says in Revelation or whatnot, like, you should love God first. You shouldn't even love your own children before God. So if I'm not worthy enough, then either way, I'm disappearing.
Now, Sue, you got disconnected. Let's see. She got disconnected. She'll be back maybe. There she is. You got disconnected. See, it's the one thing I try to teach people is when you're looking at all of this information that different people put out, keep an objective eye. Just because it looks shiny and pretty doesn't mean it is. I don't want you to take my information as the gospel. I want you to look at the documents I present, come to your own conclusion. I might be wrong about something, and if I am, I'm willing for you to come back and point it out, because guess what? That's how I learn.
I don't even want all the benefits. I don't want all the securities. I don't want anything. I just want this connection.
That's fine. I understand you don't want it, but before you can even get out, you got to first understand what it is. You've been at this 6 months. Yusufel says it right. On average, it takes someone 3 years of study just to get to the point of a certain level of competency to be able to stand in court and handle your own affairs. A minimum 3 years. Because there is so much to learn. I've been at it for 10. And I can tell you, he ain't wrong. That's the reason why I teach the way I teach, because some people don't have 3 years.
That would be me, and I do like listening to Yusuf.
I endorse him. He knows who I am. If I get on his show, he knows me by voice.
Oh, I'm in
And
good
he
company.
knows when I come. He knows when I come on there, I bring evidence. Now, can I call him on the phone? Shoot, I wish I could. But that man right there is so popular and busy. Yeah, you're going to have to pay him to talk to him. And I understand why he does it, because he can't freaking leave his phones open for everyone.
Who?
Because, Yusuf L. Because every Tom, Dick, and Harry would be calling you.
Well, I wouldn't, because I heard that he's not it.
Oh,
I know
he's
some.
actually. Now, am I going to say that he's perfect? No. But the man's not dumb. I've went behind him on so much stuff, and I've never proved him wrong. Does he withhold information? To a degree, yeah. One, you can't put everything in the public.
I don't know. I don't find his videos clear. I find them way too long. So I heard that, and I'm sure that this is true, that there's a lot of controlled opposition out there to suck our energy, time, and money, right? And so
Yeah.
my question is, how do you tell from that as opposed to another person? This is why I try to create a group of people who have different listened and followed different people and exchange our experiences, so it's called Exit the Matrix course reviews or something like that. But anyway,
what I look at as controlled opposition?
What?
And that is the people that can't accept being questioned. David Straight, for example. You question David Straight, what is his response? Well, you just don't believe in God. Because if you believed in God, you would believe in me. He has actually said that to me.
Usually he just ignores or deflects. Like he doesn't answer.
Not only that, look at the people he's put in jail.
Who?
You know Ryan Bundy out in Utah, don't you? The Bundy family?
Yeah.
Ryan Bundy, you remember Ryan Bundy got put in jail, but David Straight said it was him that got him out. No, it wasn't.
Well, what about his claim?
Bundy, he's the reason Ryan Bundy went to jail, and it was Jeremy Baker that got Ryan Bundy out.
Well, David Straight, I can just tell from his tall tales and stuff that he's not really it. Like, I didn't even need to see anything else. I just listened to him and just spotted a lot of BS. So, and anyone who says that they used to be military intelligence, that's a red flag, So, I don't.
You said he had 3 forefathers on the Mayflower or something like that, and also, what did he really get all of the justices on the West Virginia Supreme Court? Off of it?
No, and then he talks about saving all these children from child trafficking. Hey, where's the proof, guy? I mean, he makes himself out to be a hero, and he's just full of stories. These are all just made up stories.
And I absolutely.
I actually went to. Saying she's the fiduciary of the United States.
Who?
Anna von Reitz.
Anna von Reitz.
Oh, yeah.
Fiduciary for the United States.
I actually went to one of David's meetings a month ago, and I couldn't even stay for the whole thing.
Those two people, if I had to say out of anybody, they're agents.
Oh, yeah.
And David Straight in court looked at the judge, and I think it's in the Ryan Bundy case, and he looked at the judge and says, "Don't you know who I am?" And the judge said, "Oh, Mr. Straight, We all know who you are. Now, that kind of was a big red flag for me. So when you talk about controlled opposition, those are the two biggest names out there for a reason.
Yeah.
I do have to give him credit
Yusuf
for opening my
Yusuf,
eyes initially.
Yusuf El, you've said that over and over, Jeff. Yusuf El, actually, I don't see as controlled opposition. Here's why. I've watched his YouTube channel get completely wiped out with no warning at all. I have watched certain videos he
That's not
has
proof for me.
posted. Hold on. Certain videos
There's
he
plenty.
has posted that would continually get took down because he was showing how the public and private don't mix. And it was their diagram, the legal diagram. I have
Only
seen
the truth
his
gets
stuff
censored.
just
He might not be.
mysteriously get taken down, and he wouldn't even know it. And you would ask him, hey, where did your video go? He said, what? It's on my channel. No, it's not. It's gone. And he'd go look. Sure enough, it was. But
Yeah,
does
he
that
might
mean
not be
he's a
controlled up,
saint?
but I don't think he knows that, he knows enough. I mean, I had a friend who tried and actually paid him to mentor or, consult him. And he said that he left him hanging. He just took the money, led him part of the way, and just left him hanging. So
You can show the information. You can't make one understand.
That's
nah,
right.
I don't think so. I don't think
Now,
so. I don't think he's I don't think he's got it. I don't think he's got the answer.
I think
I
he's
think
got a
there's a
lot
lot
of
of
the answers.
I
people
think
out
he's an
there that
opportunist. He's like one of those guys, a lot of, I notice a lot of black guys, because that's what I've run into a lot. They offer their not quote